For 40 years, Chornobyl has been the word the world never wants to hear again. It is the name we associate with the worst nuclear accident in human history, a disaster that irradiated a continent, displaced hundreds of thousands, and left a scar on the landscape that will last for centuries. So when the International Atomic Energy Agency reported on June 7, 2026 that a drone had struck the central spent fuel storage facility inside the Chornobyl exclusion zone, a building storing large amounts of nuclear material, the IAEA Director General did not mince words. He called it a close call and said attacking a facility with large amounts of nuclear material is like playing with fire. This morning, we need to talk about exactly how close that call was. In this video, we are going to walk through everything the IAEA has confirmed and what it means. We explain what exactly was stored at the site that was hit, and how far the nuclear material was from the point of impact. We look at the broader Ukraine war escalation that produced this attack. We examine why the IAEA Director General used the words "playing with fire" and not something softer. And we close with the question that should concern every person on the planet: what is the actual threshold before a nuclear incident becomes a nuclear emergency? The sequence began in the early morning hours of June 7, 2026. According to IAEA, Ukraine notified the agency of a drone attack on the central spent fuel storage facility located inside the Chornobyl exclusion zone. The strike caused what the IAEA described as significant damage to the facility's fuel reception building, affecting the facade, windows, and doors, while nearby buildings were also affected by the blast wave. At the time of the initial report, Ukraine said radiation levels at the facility remained within established limits. What matters here is the geography of the attack. The IAEA's own statement confirmed that spent nuclear fuel was stored in casks located just a few hundred meters from the damaged building at the time of the strike. The building that was hit, the fuel reception building, is the entry point for spent fuel being transferred from Ukraine's operating nuclear power plants. Other storage casks closer to the impact site were, at that moment, empty. That detail is the difference between this story being a close call and something far worse. By the afternoon of June 7, an IAEA inspection team had visited the site and filed its assessment. The findings confirmed structural damage to the building's facade, walls, and staircase, with shattered glass, broken bricks, and debris scattered on the ground. The IAEA Safeguards office located inside that building was also damaged. Critically, the team confirmed radiation levels at the facility remained normal, meaning no radioactive contamination had been released. But the IAEA Director General at Rafał Grossi made clear this should not be read as reassurance. He called it an extremely concerning incident and stressed that it must never happen again. The IAEA also noted it remains unclear when the facility will be able to resume receiving spent fuel from Ukraine's operating reactors, a logistical problem with potentially serious downstream consequences for Ukraine's nuclear fuel management. The first question many viewers are raising is, who launched the drone, and why target Chornobyl? The short answer on attribution is that the IAEA has not named a perpetrator, and this video will not speculate beyond what official sources have confirmed. What we can say is that the Chornobyl exclusion zone is located in northern Ukraine, and the IAEA has been managing multiple simultaneous nuclear safety concerns related to the ongoing conflict, including brokering ceasefires around the Zaporizhzhya Nuclear Power Plant, where as recently as June 7, the agency was monitoring demining work required before power line repairs could begin. The pattern of nuclear infrastructure being threatened or struck is no longer a one-off incident, it is becoming a recurring feature of this conflict. A second critical question is what this means for the safety of Ukraine's operating nuclear power plants going forward. On that front, the answer is genuinely uncertain. The central spent fuel storage facility at Chornobyl is the destination for spent nuclear fuel from Ukraine's working reactors. With the facility now damaged and its operational restart timeline unclear, Ukraine faces a real logistical challenge in managing its nuclear fuel cycle during an active war. Some analysts suggest this could force Ukraine to accelerate alternative storage arrangements or seek emergency IAEA assistance. The IAEA Director General has said the agency will continue to investigate the incident, but the precedent that nuclear infrastructure is a legitimate or at least actual target in this conflict is deeply alarming to nuclear security experts worldwide. EU Commission President von der Leyen, who this week described Russian drone strikes on Romanian civilian infrastructure as a direct consequence of this war, has not yet specifically addressed the Chornobyl attack, but her framing of Europe's anti-drone investment as a matter of survival is directly relevant. Who launched the drone that struck Chornobyl, and why target a nuclear site? The IAEA has not officially attributed the attack, and responsible reporting requires we note only what is confirmed. The Chornobyl exclusion zone is located in territory accessible from multiple directions given the current front lines. What is confirmed is that striking nuclear infrastructure is a violation of the IAEA's 7 indispensable pillars for nuclear safety during armed conflict, as DG Grossi explicitly stated. What happens to Ukraine's operating nuclear reactors if the spent fuel storage facility cannot receive fuel? Ukraine's operating reactors generate spent fuel that must be regularly transferred to long-term storage. If the Chornobyl facility remains offline for an extended period, Ukraine may need to pursue emergency storage alternatives or slow reactor operations. Some nuclear safety analysts suggest this could become a secondary crisis within the primary conflict if not resolved quickly. In Ukraine itself, the attack represents a new and deeply troubling escalation threshold. For a country already managing 6 IAEA-brokered ceasefires at the Zaporizhzhya plant, a direct strike on the Chornobyl facility, the site of the 1986 disaster that defines nuclear catastrophe in the public imagination, carries enormous psychological and strategic weight. The practical consequence is an uncertain timeline for resuming spent fuel reception from the country's operating reactors, at a moment when Zelensky is simultaneously asking European partners for more air defense missiles to protect energy infrastructure before winter. For neighboring countries Romania, Poland, Belarus, Moldova, the fear of radioactive contamination is not theoretical. It was Romania that this week received a maritime drone impact on the port of Constanța as a spillover effect of the Ukraine conflict, prompting the EU Commission President to invoke European solidarity explicitly. The populations of these border states have lived with the legacy of the 1986 Chornobyl disaster in their water, soil, and public health statistics for 40 years. Any suggestion of a new nuclear release at the same site triggers a visceral and immediate public response. For the broader European Union and NATO alliance, this attack is a test of whether nuclear safety guarantees articulated through the IAEA framework carry any deterrent weight in a modern war. According to von der Leyen, Europe is investing massively in anti-drone capabilities and early warning systems under the SAFE framework. But anti-drone defenses at a nuclear site inside an active conflict zone require a level of perimeter security and coordination that no existing framework has yet delivered reliably. Globally, the incident raises a question that every nuclear-armed and nuclear-powered nation must now grapple with. In a world of cheap, proliferating drone technology, is any nuclear facility anywhere truly protected? Presenting this story fairly requires acknowledging that the attribution of this drone strike has not been officially confirmed, and that in the fog of an active conflict, responsibility is often claimed, disputed, or left ambiguous for strategic reasons. There is a countervailing argument made by some military analysts that strikes on infrastructure, including nuclear-adjacent sites, are sometimes intended as signaling rather than as attempts to cause radiological harm. Under this reading, the attack may have been designed to demonstrate reach and capability, to pressure Ukraine's partners diplomatically, or to create logistical disruption rather than to trigger a nuclear release. The IAEA's own confirmation that radiation levels remained normal and that the stored fuel casks were not directly hit is consistent with a precision demonstration rather than a catastrophic attempt. However, and this must be stated clearly, even a demonstration strike on nuclear infrastructure is a violation of internationally agreed nuclear safety principles that no military justification can override. As the IAEA Director General stated directly, it is like playing with fire. The argument that it was intended as a signal, not a catastrophe, offers no reassurance if the next drone carries a slightly different trajectory. Here is the detail that should stay with you. The IAEA Safeguards Office inside that building, the team whose job is to verify that nuclear material is safe and accounted for, was itself damaged in the strike. The people whose job is to watch over the nuclear material were in the building that got hit. Let that land for a moment. Leave a comment below. Do you think the current international frameworks, the IAEA, nuclear safety treaties, diplomatic condemnation, are actually capable of protecting nuclear sites in modern drone warfare? This is one of the most important questions of our era. Share your view below, and subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive.